Hello and Assalamu alaikum. This is Kashif Kamran, and I welcome you to the day 3 of the Advanced Audit and Assurance Practice to Pass webinar being organized by ACCA Pakistan for September 2019 examination. Now, today is the third day of this Practice to Pass session, and the focus of the third day is to look at the ethical, professional, and quality control issues. Now, in my session today, I will be focusing on each of the dimension of ethical, professional, and quality control. Now, that is exactly what I will be doing inside the third day. And just a reminder that this has been an area which I have consistently covered in all my previous webinar. So if you want to have more practice of the same area, and if you want to have a more in-depth understanding of this area prior to your exams in September, you can go down looking at the previous webinars which are available on the ACCA Pakistan channel on Vimeo. Now, in the session today, I will specifically be looking at two important exam questions, one being June 16, the question number 2A, and the other being June 15, the question number 4. Now, the reason of choosing these two questions is that both these questions will accumulate the topic in a very good sense. The June 16 question will give us the dimension of the professional issues, ethical issues, and the quality control issue. And the June 15 question will give us the dimension of the ethical side and the professional side. Now, just like yesterday, I would first start on building the fundamentals about ethical, professional, and quality control issues, and then taking into account the examiner expectations, exactly what a student do wrong in a question on ethical, professional, and quality control issue, and then starting on with the drilling process of the June 16 and the June 15 question number 4. Okay, so let's first start on with the understanding process. Now, there are two good articles which has been written by the examining team. One is the exam technique article part 1, which focus on ethics. This is the exam technique article part 1, which really tells student how they should be writing an answer to a question on ethics. Then there is an article which has been written on quality control, which sum up the quality control issues from the examination point of view. And in this article, the examiner has given some very good examples of the situations which can compromise the quality of the audit. Now, I'll be exploring both of these articles during the tenure of the session today, and will be guiding you exactly what the examiner expects from the student in the exam context when they are attempting a question on ethical, professional, and quality control issue. So let's take on the Word file, as I have been using this consistently over the last 2 days. And let's start on with the third day, where the focus is on ethical, professional, and quality control issues. And I'll be using the short form of this in my session today. Ethical, professional, and quality control issues will become EPQ. So I'll be using the short form EPQ, and I hope all of you will be comfortable with that, because taking into account ethical, professional, and quality control issues multiple times will be wasting a lot of time. So EPQ becomes the short form. Okay, now let's see what exactly the examiner expects from us on EPQ. First of all, the very first thing you should be knowing about EPQ from the context of exam paper. Firstly, it is a very regular feature of exam paper. So it's not like a topic which miss a lot. This is like a very, very static process. This is like a very, very static question. in the exam paper. So expecting an exam question without this topic is very difficult. So it's better that you're prepared on this topic rather than you have a fear around this topic, because this is a key feature of your 100 marks paper. Yes, the marks can be less and the marks can be more from one exam sitting to the other exam sitting. We have seen exam sittings where the marks have been as low as 6 marks, and we have seen exam sittings where the marks have been as high as 24 marks. So it is all up to the examiner that whether the examining team keeps the marks less or more. But this is a regular feature, right? Where the student should be very strong at. So it's a regular feature of the exam paper. Now, knowing that, what is the requirement? What exactly the question asks for? What exactly the question asks for? So we will be looking for that. Then also looking at the marking scheme, because that's very important. I have been emphasizing on the marking scheme in my day 1 and then in my day 2. Now it comes to day 3, where again the emphasis has to be on the marking scheme, because that's the only way we can write a complete answer. So knowing it's a regular feature of exam, the requirement, what exactly the question asks for, what is the marking scheme, and finally, what are examiner expectations? What are examiner expectations, and are the students meeting those expectations? Meeting those expectations. Now that's a big question. Examiner expectations, and are the students meeting those expectations? Because if we are not, then we're not writing a good answer. And again, there might be many students who are repeating the AAA exams, and you need to realize that meeting the examiner expectation is very, very important. If you're not meeting the examiner expectation, then that's a big problem, that we're not scoring a proper marks on this area. Okay, let's start one by one with each of them. Now, if you look at first the requirements and try to understand what exactly are the requirements on this area. One of the requirement which is in this area, which is a more simpler requirement, is that when the examiner asks the student to discuss or to explain the ethical issues and recommend actions. Now, this is a more easier requirement, because what I believe and what I have seen students doing is that they're very good on the side of ethical issues. They're very comfortable on the side of ethical issues. They can easily find from the question what are self-review threat, or what is a familiarity threat, or what is an advocacy threat. They're good on picking the ethical issue from the question. And obviously, then they need to recommend an action, which is basically the safeguard. So the students are more ease with this sort of a requirement. But the student starts to get nervous when this requirement starts to change and the examiner says discuss or explain the ethical and professional issues and recommendations. And the student starts to get afraid with this requirement here, because they have a very blur idea about what exactly is a professional issue, and they start to get confused in the exam paper as to how to write it and what exactly is a professional issue. So that sets the second set of requirement. And again, that's a more regular feature of the triple exams. 1 and 2, 2 is a more regular feature. 2 is what you see most of the time coming in exam context. Then you look at the final third requirement, which comes on this topic, which says comment on the quality of the audit. Comment on the quality of the audit, discussing the ethical, professional, and quality control issues. Now, this is a more complex question, because it's adding on, apart from ethical issues and apart from professional issues, it is also adding the quality control issues. So examiner is saying that you have to comment on the quality. And when you are commenting on the quality, this is a very blur area for students. Students are not very good on what exactly comment on quality means, and students have a very weak definition of what exactly comment on the quality means. Discussing the ethical issues, which students are good at, professional issues, which is yet another problem, and then the examiner is saying discuss the quality control issues. So this is these are the three types of requirements. There is no fourth requirement in the exam paper. So you need to become good on these three requirements. Now, am I right saying that students normally are good on the side of ethical issues? Can I get an answer for that quickly? Uh, is that a journal tendency that students can pick ethical issue more easily in the exam paper? They can identify the ethical issues more easily in the exam paper. Is that a more easier area? And um, and writing the safeguards, right? But when it comes to professional issues, is it a struggling area for most of you, professional issues? Do you all believe professional issues is like a struggling area, is like a very challenging area for most of the students? And the same goes with the quality control issues, that the quality control issue is normally a weak area because student fails to understand what basically is a quality control issue. So should I be spending more time on professional and quality control in my next 3 hours, right? I believe you're good on the threats to independence, right? But I'll try to focus more on the professional side and the quality control side, because I believe if I give you a case study, within a minute you can identify what is the ethical issue, right? So I try to focus more on professional and quality control. So within the next 3 hours, you have a better understanding of quality and professional. And I'll be taking a feedback at the end of my session that at this point in time when the session has already started and at the end of the session, have you started to feel more confident about professional and quality control issue? So try to understand the topic in the next 1 hour before I start to exercise the exam papers. And more likely by the end of the session, you will be very clear and very confident on holding the topic professional and quality control in exam paper. Okay, then comes the marking schemes. The marking scheme is 1 mark, is 1 mark per issue. Whatever issue you identify, you will be taking 1 mark, whether that is an ethical issue or that is a quality control issue or whether that is a professional issue. So you will be taking 1 marks across the issue. And then there is 1 mark per action. So every action you write will give you 1 mark. So that's a very simple looking marking scheme. Every issue I write, I'll get 1 mark. And every action I write, I'll get 1 mark. So you know the marks and you can easily allocate how many points you should be writing in the exam paper. Okay, now let's come to the examiner expectations before starting on with the drilling. If I look at the examiner expectations, firstly, the examiner says students fails to explain why it is an ethical threat. Examiner says students are good on identifying the ethical threat, right? Like a self-review threat, but student fails to explain why it is an ethical threat. So in the exam paper, you say this is a self-review threat, but mostly students fails to identify why. You don't write the why. That's a big problem. So when you say it is a self-review threat, do explain to the examiner why. When you say it is a self-interest threat, do explain to the examiner why. When you say it is an intimidation threat, do explain to the examiner why. When you say this is a conflict of interest, then do explain examiner why this is a conflict of interest, right? And the marking scheme is one, right? Get out of the 1.5 marking scheme or a 2 marking scheme. The marking scheme is now 1 and 1. So come out of that confusion. Second, students fails to identify the professional issues from the case, or exactly don't write why exactly don't write the implication of a professional issue on the audit. So student fails to identify the professional issue. That's a big problem, right? And even if they do identify a professional issue, they exactly don't write the implication of a professional issue on the audit. If there is a professional issue, then you have to explain the implication of the professional issue on the audit process. I'll be explaining that once I start emphasizing on the professional issues. Then the third one, students generally fails to pick the quality control issues, and even if they pick so they fails to explain, they fails to justify how quality will be compromised, how quality will be compromised. So I hope you agree with the bullet number 2 and bullet number 3, because at times we fails to identify the professional issue, and even if we do identify a professional issue, we don't write the implication of a professional issue on the audit process. We don't pick the quality control issue. Either we don't know what is a quality control issue, or even if we pick the quality control issue, we fails to justify how quality will be compromised. So how is very important, how quality will be compromised. So can you look at the 3 bullets? In the case of ethics, what's the problem? In the case of ethics, the problem is we don't explain why it is an ethical threat. Do you all agree with that? In the case of ethics, we don't explain why it is an ethical threat. In the case of the professional issues, we don't tell what is the implication of a professional issue. And in the case of the quality control issue, we don't tell how the quality will be compromised. Can you see those yellow highlighted things? Why implication, how quality will be compromised? Do you believe those yellow highlighted words are important for scoring marks? If you can give me quick answers to that. Why implication, how quality will be compromised? Do you all believe this is an important area? Otherwise, we will not be getting 1 mark. We will probably be getting 0.5 marks. So 0.5 or 1. So are we all aiming to get 1 mark, or are we all aiming to get 0.5 marks? Okay, so let's start an exercise, right, on how to gain 1 mark. Okay, now let's start on discussing professional and quality control issues. Professional issues. It's so easy to pick professional issues from the case study. And please, just a reminder, I'm not touching upon ethics because you all agreed ethics is your strong area, and you all agreed that I should focus more on professional and quality control issue because all of you can pick the ethical problem from the case study. Is that true? So should I start my focus on the professional issues, or should I start from ethics? Okay, I'll be coming back to ethics, right? Once I do a case study, but let's start first from professional issue. Okay, let's do it this way. If I just take you back to my presentation for a minute, and right in front of your screen, if you can see the ethical issues first. Step one, identify from the case the ethical issue. And I think this is something where students are very good at, right? Identify from the case the ethical issue. The step number two, explain why it is an ethical issue. And I think this is an area which is weak. Why? Right? Then the step number three, justify the significance if possible. See what's written, justify the significance if possible. If the ethical issue is in the context of a listed company, then obviously that's very significant, because if you are comparing an ethical issue in an owner managed company, suppose you are preparing the financial statements in an owner managed company and you're preparing a financial statements in a listed company, which is more significant? Which is more significant self-review threat? You're preparing a financial statement of a listed company and you're preparing a financial statement of an owner managed company, which is a more significant self-review threat. So in the exam, try to justify the significance. But is the step three saying that we need to justify the significance in all cases? Is the step three saying that do we need to justify the significance in all cases? Or is it saying if possible? Is that if possible very important in the step number three? Because a lot of time the student ignore if possible, right? So where possible, if possible. So can we do it in all cases, 100% cases? No. Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, second example. Uh, you are taking on management responsibilities in a listed company, and you are taking on a management responsibility in an owner managed company. Now, I hope you're very familiar with the term known as a management threat when you take on the management responsibilities. So, taking on management responsibilities in a listed company, is that something severe? Is that something significant as compared to taking on a management responsibility in a owner managed company? Right? And you know this is prohibited, right? Taking on a management responsibility in a listed company is prohibited. But taking on a management responsibility in an owner managed company, that's permissible. So are you getting to know what is the significance? Okay. The engagement partner has the engagement partner has shares in the company. Is that a very significant self-interest threat? Because the engagement partner has to sign the report. Do you believe if the ethical dilemma relates with a partner, that ethical dilemma will be very significant? Because the partner is the one who has to sign the report. So can you relate my examples? If possible, listed company. If possible, the partner. So can you give importance to the partner in a case study? Will you all give importance to a partner in a case study? And will you all give importance to a listed company in a case study? Right? So can you understand, justify the significance if possible? And that's another area where students are weak. And then finally, writing the action, writing the safeguards. And students mostly learn the safeguard and normally are good on safeguards. Safeguards are given in the Kaplan book. Safeguards are given in the BPP book. Safeguards are available over the WhatsApp group events. Lots of students I've seen keep sharing the ethical summaries and the safeguards for the other students on the WhatsApp group. There are plenty of sources, right? You must be having documents which contains the safeguards which you can learn and go to the exam paper, right? So this is ethical issues, right? So do you all believe step two and step three is where you need to polish up? Do you all believe step two and step three is an area where you all need to polish up? right? So will you be polishing up on the step 2 and step 3 when you're writing answers at home, right? And what about step 1 and 4? Is that an easier step 1 and step 4? Step 1 and step 4, is that an easier part? Okay, yes, I will be sharing the summaries of the ethical issues on the WhatsApp group, which I have purposely created for the September 19 webinar. So I'll be sharing the summaries by tomorrow of the ethical issues and the safeguards, so you can revise them, learn them from the document. Okay, now let's go to the difficult part, professional issues. Now listen very carefully. Step 1, identify from the case the professional issue. Now, if you don't know what is a professional issue, how will you identify from the case what is a professional issue? So the very first step is a weak area of the student. Identify the ethical issue, you know it, you identify it. But identify the professional issue and you're weak, because how many of the students don't have a good definition or understanding of what exactly is a professional issue? So are we good in identifying the professional issue from a case study? Do we exactly know what is a professional issue? Do we make confusions? Do we make confusions when we are identifying a professional issue from a case study? So are we weaker on identifying professional issues? Right? Okay, next. Now see the bullet. It says professional issues can be at any stage of the audit, be it planning, performance of the engagement, or the finalization stage of the engagement. Professional issue can be within the process of the audit. Within the process of the audit, it can be an issue at the planning stage. It can be an issue during the course of the audit, and it can be an issue at the finalization stage of the audit. So is everyone clear on the boundary? So professional issues can be at any stage, right? They can be at the stage of planning, they can be at the stage of performance, they can be at the stage of finalization, right? So that's the very broad definition, right, of what a professional issue is. Now I need to give you examples, right? So just wait for that. Then if you identify what is a professional issue, which you will be once you get this session ended, then you have to explain why it is an issue. And then you have to tell the implication on the process of the audit. So 3 steps to take 1 mark: identify the professional issue, explain why it is a professional issue, and the implication of the professional issue on the audit. So 3 steps is equal to 1 mark. So that's how you should be going in. So let's take some examples. Identify from the case, explain why it is an issue, and the implication on the process of the audit. Okay, let's take you to the Word file and let's do some drilling on this. Professional issues. Okay, now understand something very effectively. Professional issues are within the process of audit. Within the process of audit. It can be planning, it can be performance, or it can be the finalization stage of the audit. Now, see, I'm making something so easier for you to learn and apply to exam paper. It is within the process of the audit. Now, what will you do in the exam hall, right? You look at the case study, you look at the case, right? And within the case, identify what is wrong, or what you believe is wrong within the process of the audit. Within the process of the audit. Identify what is wrong, what you believe is wrong within the process of the audit. When you're reading a case, right, Underline wherever you think something has gone wrong. Will it be difficult for you to identify something wrong in the case study? Because if you know what planning is, if you know what performance is, and if you know what finalization is, when you're reading the case, can you be able to identify something which you believe is wrong in the context of planning, performance, and finalization? Will you have that capability in exam paper? Because your syllabus covers planning and performance, right? So identify what is wrong and what you believe is wrong within the process of the audit. So once I do the case study with you, so we'll simply identify what is wrong or what you believe is wrong within the process of the audit, and then justify why it is wrong. Because you identified what is wrong, so you need to justify why it is wrong and then tell the implication on the audit process. So if you identified something wrong, then ask yourself why it is wrong. And then ask yourself that what's the implication of this wrong on the audit process? So what is wrong, why it is wrong, and what's the implication of the wrong on the process of the audit? Are you getting some sense of these three bullets before I do an exercise and start an exam paper? So anything which is wrong, there cannot be examples, hundreds of examples. But you will be a clever student if you can identify what is wrong, why it is wrong, and the implication of the wrong on the audit process. And this all will give us how many marks? What, why, and the implication? One. So should we be writing half a page on that? No, it should just be like 3 to 4 sentences, right? 3 to 4 sentences max, which covers what, why, and the implication. Are we writing half a page, 7 to 8 sentences? No, we're just writing 3 to 4 sentences max on getting this 1 mark. So this should be written into like 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 sentences. I'm not saying lines. Lines is different, sentences are different. I hope you know the difference between a line and a sentence. 3 to 4 sentences to score 1 mark. Is everyone clear on that? Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, now when you look at the quality control issues, okay, just before starting on with the quality control issues, the two examples, one known as professional competence and the other known as professional behavior. You must all be very familiar with these two words, right? In an exam session, when you're reading the case, and in the case you find something relating to competence wrong, right? Not right, wrong, and something relating to a behavior, you should identify what's wrong with competence. What is wrong with competence? Not necessarily every time the competence is wrong, but what is wrong with competence? Is there something wrong with competence? Something wrong with competence. Not necessarily, I'm again repeating, right? Not necessarily every time the competence is wrong. Then what is wrong with auditor behavior? Auditor behavior. And again, not necessarily every time the auditor behavior is wrong. Ask yourself, is there something wrong with auditor behavior? So will you keep these two things in mind? This is not the scope of professional issues. This is just examples, right? These are just examples. But if you go to the exam hall believing that competence and behavior is the professional issue, then you have taken a weak definition to exam hall. Is everyone getting clear on this? Professional competence and professional behavior is just examples of professional issues. But is it all the professional issues in the exam paper? Is it all what you're finding from the exam paper? Or should we focus on what is wrong in the process of the audit? But if something is wrong with competence, if something is wrong with competence, identify that as an issue. If something is wrong with behavior, try to identify even that as an issue. But will you just focus on these two and nothing else? Okay, then coming on to the quality control issues and then starting on with the past papers, quality control issues. Let's make a definition of a quality control issue. I'm going back to my presentation for that. Quality control issue. Step number one, identify the issue. Now that's again a big problem because we don't know what is a quality control issue. So how will we identify that? Just like a professional issue, because we are not sure, so we cannot identify. It mostly relates with direction, supervision, and review process. And I'll justify why. Explain why it is an issue. First, identify the issue, then explain why it is an issue. But see the bullet under why. It says how it must have impacted the quality of audit. If you think it is an issue, then how it has impacted the quality. How? And connect the issue with an element of the firm quality control. Connect the issue with the element of the firm quality control. How many elements of quality controls are there if you have studied the ISA 220 or ISQC1? How many elements of quality controls are there? Let's test your knowledge. 3 weeks before exams, how many of you have studied the examiner article quality control, a perpetual current issue? How many of you have studied the examiner article audit quality, a perpetual current issue? Or how many of you have gone through the books reading quality control as a topic from the books? So some is saying 7, some is saying 5, some is saying 6. The right answer is 6. There are 6 elements of the quality control system, and the examiner has written the 6 in the article, and one of the student is saying 9. So that's amazing, right? That shows how well you are prepared for your exams on the 2nd of September. So that means the student telling 9, 7, 5 is all wrong, and the student telling 6 is perfectly right. So when you identify a quality control issue, you need to tell why it is an issue. That is how it will impact on the quality of the audit. And then connect the issue with the quality control element of the quality control. And you should know the element of quality control. You should know the element of the quality control. There are 6 elements of the quality control. You should connect that. Yes, obviously, the quality control element will be in the context of the audit firm, right? Because we are dealing with the quality of the audit firm, not the client. So we are only looking at the quality control issues which pertains to the audit firm, right? Not to the client. So we are not concerned about the client, right? We're only concerned about the audit firm in the advanced audit and assurance exams. So is everyone clear on the 3 steps before I start drilling the process? Identify the issue, explain why it is an issue, and then connect the quality control problem with the element, and you should know the element, you should learn the element, and I'll just make you realize that once I get to the drilling process. Okay, let's take on the word file again for the one final time. Number one, identify from the case the issues which impact on the firm quality, Then explain, then explain why, how it will impact on the audit quality. So identify from the case the issue which impact on the firm quality, then explain how it will impact on the audit quality, and finally connect connect the issue with an element of quality control system, and you should learn the element of quality control system. You should know this. This is very, very important. So is that easier? Identify from the case the issue which impacts on the firm quality, then explain how it will impact on the audit quality, and then connect the issue with an element of quality control system. I'll be demonstrating that, right? So you will become perfect on this. Okay, let's take an example. Issues which impact on the firm quality. I'm taking this from the quality control standard, which is ISA 220, which is the quality control standards. Quality control standard. Okay, let's take a list quickly. What impacts the quality of the firm? Let's summarize that. Okay, number one, direction is a very important element of quality. Direction. Now, direction means planning. As per ISA 220, planning is a very essential element of quality. So when you're reading a case study and you think that there is something wrong with planning, or the planning was not proper, or the planning was not performed, or the planning was done in a rush, so you need to connect that with the element of direction. Direction is a very proper jargon in ISA 220, right? So in an exam paper, if you think there is inappropriate planning, something like inappropriate planning, or in an exam paper you think there was no planning, or do you think the planning was done in rush? If you find such issues in an exam paper which says comment on the quality, then all these issues will impact upon direction. Direction is a very proper word. So you will say that inappropriate planning will compromise the audit quality. Why? And this is an element of the quality control standard, which is direction. Second element of the quality control is known as supervision. Now we know supervision is something which is ongoing during the process of the audit. Supervision, right? Such an important element of quality as per ISA 220. If an audit engagement is performed without supervision, then imagine the quality has been compromised, because you will not be identifying the issues and the problems very effectively. So if in an exam paper you come across something like this, the supervisor, the audit supervisor is part qualified. So how can he do the proper supervision? Because a supervisor who is responsible for conducting the supervision should be qualified. So if the supervisor himself is part qualified, how will he conduct a proper supervision? And if there is no proper supervision, then obviously the quality will be compromised. Supervisor is part qualified. The manager is absent. The senior the senior in charge of audit is busy. Do you believe these situations do demonstrate that the supervision is not taking place, manager is absent, senior in charge of audit is busy, audit supervisor is part qualified? Do you all believe this compromise the element of supervision? So can you connect these issues with the element of supervision in exam paper? Supervision. And then the most important element, which has been coming in the past papers many times, is known as review. Review of the working papers. Review of the working paper file. Review is another jargon, a very specific jargon of ISA 220. Review. Let's see what review is. Now, in an exam paper, you come across um, manager didn't had time to review working papers, or manager asked the junior to review each other working paper. Is that something proper? That manager didn't have time to review working papers? Is manager responsible to review working papers? Do you all agree with that? Is manager responsible to review working papers? Yes. But is that an issue that he didn't have time? So what if there are mistakes in the working paper? What if there are issues in working paper which are overlooked? So will that compromise the quality? Yes, because review is a element of quality. Do you all understanding this? Direction, supervision, and review are elements of quality because you need to connect them in exam paper. So if you find an issue which connects with direction, if you find an issue which connects with supervision, or if you find an issue which connects with review, so automatically will become an element of the quality control system. Okay, fourth, engagement team. There were inappropriate staff. The team comprise comprise of only a supervisor and an assistant, and it is a listed company or it is a large company. Suppose you're doing a case where there is a large company or a listed company and it says the audit team comprise of only a supervisor and an assistant. Do you think this is right type of team? Is it an appropriate team? The audit team comprise of only a supervisor. Do you think that size of team is appropriate? Now, will it connect with quality? Yes, because engagement team is an element of quality. Because if your team is not appropriate, can you perform a better audit? Do you think two is very less here? Two is very less. And when two is very less, will it compromise the quality of the work? So will you connect this with an element of engagement quality in exam paper, that this is an element of quality known as engagement team, right? So is everyone clear with the more important elements of quality which comes on a regular basis in exam paper: direction, supervision, review, and engagement team, right? So try to identify such issues and connect them with quality control. And I'll be showing you how you write and how you connect that with direction, how you write and you connect that with supervision, how you write and you connect that with review, or how you write and you connect that with engagement team. So now let's look at the definition finally. Look at that in front of your screen. Identify from the case the issue which impacts the quality. So the issue can be inappropriate planning. The issue can be no planning. Then explain how it will impact upon the quality and connect the issue with an element of quality. So if there is something relating to inappropriate planning, you will tell how it will compromise the quality. And then you will say that direction is an element of the firm quality control system which has been compromised. Direction is an element of the firm quality control system which has been compromised. Manager is absent. Supervision is an important element of the quality control system which has been compromised. Are you getting the track? So the first feedback time, right? It's been approximately 50 minutes into the session, and we started discussing ethical, professional, and quality control issues. 50 minutes into the session, is your body language changing? Are you feeling better and more understandable of the subject matter? Or are you believing that this session has given me a gain and I can do better in the exam paper? And we still need to do the practice, right? Because practice will make it more perfect. So, but we have not yet started practice, right? But is the structure helping you how you should be going down in the exam paper and how you connect things up? And I need to ask a question with the students who are repeating the AAA paper. How many times have you connected the quality control issues with elements of direction, supervision, review, and engagement team? How many times have you done that? How many times have you identified the right quality control issue? Students have a tendency that in a question on quality control, they keep writing, thus the quality is compromised, thus the quality is compromised, thus the quality is compromised, but they will never connect that with an element of quality control, or they will never tell why the quality is compromised. They will keep giving, thus the quality is compromised, thus the quality is compromised. That is the most favorite student statement, right? So we still need to do the drilling process, which will obviously make things very, very clear, right? Now let's do the final thing. This is the article in front of your screen, which is must for all of you to read because many students responded wrongly when I asked you what are elements of quality control. Some said 9, some said 7, some said 5. So please do read this in perfection. I want to show you something from this article. This, why is audit quality a concern? This is an examiner article, and the examples given in this article can come to your exam paper and has already come. This is not a new article, right? This has been tested so many times in past paper. Examiner says right here, if you can read this paragraph with me, I just try to highlight this paragraph so you can have a better understanding. See here. Examiner says, some examples are given below to illustrate the effect of these pressures on audit quality. First problem, which affects the quality of the audit. See this, tight deadlines and restriction on audit fees. Think, read this article yourself, right? I'm just highlighting the issues. Tight deadlines. Do you believe when there are tight deadlines, things will be done in rush? We will compromise key areas, or we will be gathering less evidence, and eventually, we will be compromising the quality, right? Fees restriction. If there is a fees restriction, will we do work as per quality? If I'm paid less, if I'm paid less, will I do things as per quality? So do you understand tight deadlines and restriction on fees and how they affect the quality of the audit process? These examples have come in the past papers, right? They can also come in your exam sitting. Don't just take them casual. Read them, read them. Look at the next one. Competence. Have you just covered competence under the engagement team? Do we need to have a competent staff in the team? If the audit supervisor is part qualified, if the audit supervisor is part qualified, will he do a proper supervision? No, because he's not qualified. He's not competent. So do you believe there is a connection of quality with competence? Okay. Ethical dilemmas. Do you believe there is a connection of ethical dilemmas with quality If the auditor is not independent, if the auditor is not independent, that will compromise the quality of the audit as well. Do you agree with that? Okay, the next one, use of judgments, extensive use of judgments. There are so many situations which comes in exam paper where there is a use of judgment. Let me make that clear for you. Use of judgment. Let's take some examples. There is a situation which we say use of judgments. So many times when you're reading a case, when you are reading a case, you will come across such statements. Number one, the manager instructed, the manager told, the manager informed. These are judgments. The manager instructed us to do something. This is a judgment of a manager. Manager told us something. This is a judgment of the manager. Manager informed of something. This is the judgment of the manager. I normally tell my students, whenever you get this word in exam paper, instructed, told, informed, highlight them, because you never know that the manager instruction could be wrong. Manager told could be wrong. You need to be very careful. What has the manager instructed? Has he given the right instruction or the wrong instruction? What has the manager told? Has he told something right or wrong? What has the manager informed? Was it the right informed or the wrong informed? So should you be critical of whenever you get these words in exam paper, manager instructed, manager told, manager informed? Will you think about them critically? And will you think whether these are right or wrong? If it is wrong, then it can compromise the quality, because if the manager has given a wrong instruction, is the manager responsible for supervision? Do you all believe manager is responsible for supervision? But if he has given a wrong instruction, is he conducting the right supervision? Is he conducting the right supervision? No. So can this be connected with supervision? Supervision as a quality control element? Okay, that's perfect. Okay, back to the article for the last thing. So examiner says these are the areas which compromise the quality. So will you remember these four areas from examiner article? Extensive use of judgments, ethical dilemmas, competence, and tight deadlines. And will you read this 5-page article? Please read this 5-page article if you want to become more clear, more better on handling the subject area of quality, right? So that's the end of the first exercise we need to do in this session, day 3 today. Now, the second exercise is to start on with the drilling process. Now, just before I start on with the drilling process, I am first taking on the June 16 exam paper as my first drilling question. And in the June 16 question, I will be taking you down to the question number 2, which is on the subject we need to do. Okay, can you all see this requirement in front of your screen for the question number 2? Just be critical of this requirement right here. Comment on the quality of the audit performed. Now, when you look at this, will you start to think about that in this question, there might be something relating to direction, supervision, review, about the engagement team? Will you start to think about tight deadlines, fees restriction, use of judgment? So the moment you see the word comment on the quality, will all this starts to go at the back of your mind? Yes or no? Comment on the quality of the audit performed. Will that start to go at the back of your mind? The examples given by the examiner and supervision, direction, review, which I just told you. Discussing the quality control, comma, ethical. The moment you think about ethical, will self-review, self-interest, familiarity, advocacy, intimidation starts to go at the back of your mind? Okay. And other professional issues? Something wrong in the process of audit? So will you be reading the case to identify is there something wrong in the process of the audit? So is everyone clear with the requirement? Quality control, what should be going on in my mind? Ethical, what should be going on in my mind? Professional, what should be going in my mind? So will that help you reading the question in exam paper? And how many marks I have? 13. If I divide them by 1, how many issues I have to raise? How many issues should I be raising for 13 marks? 13, 13 divided by 1, 13. So let's do this as a very first question to understand all what we have understood in the last 1 hour. Okay, let me take this to my Word file. I just prepared the structure and we'll take a break, and post break we'll start with the answer part, right? It's uh, we're taking this first drilling of the session. Okay, drill number 1, and this relates to June 2016, question number 2, part A, and this is the requirement. Okay, now everyone should know what a quality control issue is. Everyone should know what an ethical issue is. Everyone should know what is a professional issue, and everyone should know the marking scheme. So I've highlighted 4 things in yellow. Is everyone clear on those 4 things? Quality control 1, ethical 2, professional 3, marks 13. Now knowing all that, this is the way you read requirements in exam paper, right? Which mostly students don't. Now when you plan your answer, and then the next thing is answer. Now, how many times we start the answer without planning in the exam paper? Spend 5 minutes planning the answer. When you're planning the answer, think about how many issues to write. I should write 13 divided by 1 is equal to 13 issues. Is the question asking for writing actions? So will I be writing actions? No. Should I only be writing issues? Yes. How many issues? 13. Which issues? Quality plus ethical plus professional, right? And then focusing on writing them under headings plus paras, and each para should be of 2 to 3 sentences. This is your planning, right? Then you should start answering your question. Now, most of the time when the student starts answering a question like such, they put headings like such: ethical issues, quality control issues, professional issues. This is the most illogical thing you do in an exam paper. You cannot put these headings because you're classifying the issue. You are not you are not required to classify the issue because you are a manager in the question paper. You need to tell the issue and why it is an issue rather than you're telling the class of the issue. Never put these three headings in the exam paper. The headings has to come from the case study. When you read a case, the case will guide you what heading to put, but a lot of times students segregate the answer in three parts, which is the most inappropriate approach you can take to answer a question, because then half the time in the exam hall you will be confused whether I should put this under my first heading, whether I should put this under my second heading, whether I should put this under my third heading. So this is the most illogical way to put the answer. The headings has to be case specific, right? So let's remove that. Let's see what we should be doing. Okay, let's just do one thing before the break, and then we'll do the rest after the break. Okay, I'm reading the first paragraph with you. You are a senior manager in Macau and Company, a firm of chartered certified accountant. In your capacity as an engagement quality control reviewer, you have been asked to review the audit file of Stanley and Colloon Company, both of which have a financial year end 31st of December 2015, and the audit of both companies are nearing completion. So we are performing the engagement quality control review at the completion stage of the audit, which is the very right time to perform such a review. Now, that is an introductory paragraph. Now, let's see what exactly have we identified from the review. And you need to tell me, is it an issue and why it is an issue? Remember, what is a professional issue? Something wrong. Something wrong, why it is wrong, and what's the implication. And if you find something relating to direction, something relating to supervision, something relating to review, you need to highlight that as a quality control element. Stanley is a food processor selling products to wholesalers and supermarkets. From your review of the audit working paper, you have noted that the level of materiality was determined to be 1.5 million at the planning stage, which is right. And this materiality threshold has been used throughout the audit. There is no evidence, there is no evidence on the audit file that this threshold has been reviewed during the course of the audit. Is this an issue that this threshold has not been reviewed during the course of the audit? Do you all believe materiality should be reviewed during the course of the audit to confirm whether there should be a change or there should not be a change? So, should we review materiality during the course of the audit to conclude whether there should be a change in materiality or there should not be? But have we reviewed materiality during the course of the audit? Have we reviewed materiality during the course of the audit? No. Is it an issue? Is it something wrong in the process of the audit? Professional. What was the definition of professional issue? Something wrong. So have you identified something wrong and why it is wrong? And what's the implication? What's the implication? See, how would I write this as my first answer? My first heading would become materiality level. So see the headings I'm using. Materiality level. Am I using the headings ethical issue, professional issue, quality control issue? No, I'm saying materiality level. Number one, see how I start under. The materiality level should be reviewed during the course of audit to conclude whether there is a need to change, there is a need to change or no need to change the materiality level. You're telling the knowledge. The materiality level should be reviewed during the course of the audit to conclude whether there is a need to change or no need to change the materiality level, and this should be documented in the working papers. However, as this level, as materiality was not reviewed, it must had resulted in performing. See, now understand, if materiality level was to be revised, if materiality level was to be revised, suppose from 1.5, we need to make it 2, or from 1.5, we need to make it 1. What is the implication? If the materiality level was to be revised downwards, then that means we have done less work. And if the materiality level has to be revised upward, that means we have done more work. So do you believe materiality has a connection with the amount of work? Do materiality affects the amount of work? Yes. So, however, as the materiality was not reviewed, it must have resulted in performing inadequate work, either more or less, because we're not sure whether the materiality should be revised downwards or the materiality should be revised upwards. Don't please connect everything with opinion. Opinion is something which comes in the last. Just try to be very close by. However, as materiality was not reviewed, it must had resulted in performing inadequate work. So do you all believe this is an issue, either more or less? Full stop. So what's the implication? The implication is inadequate work. What's the issue? The issue is um, materiality was not reviewed. This is the issue. And what's the implication of the issue? That it must have resulted in performing inadequate work. Now see this and see this. This is what a tutor wrote, right? And this is what a student wrote. Because there are some questions coming in which I need to address as well. The student will go to the exam hall, first tell materiality level, and he would start writing under. Um, as the materiality level was not reviewed, it is a professional issue. This is something wrong, right? I just want to illustrate how you people write an exam paper. As materiality level was not reviewed, it is a professional issue which must had compromised the quality of the audit, because you know there is an element of quality in the question. So that's what the student do. Every problem, you will pick every problem in the question and you'll say quality is compromised. Are we picking every problem and connecting it with quality has been compromised? You try to bring all things together. As the materiality level was not reviewed, it is a professional issue which must had compromised the quality of the audit, which must have compromised the quality of the audit. Further, as the materiality level was not reviewed, it must had resulted in giving a wrong audit opinion and must had increased the detection risk for the auditor. Materiality level is materiality level is 1 to 2% of the total assets, 5 to 10% of the profit, and half to 1% of the revenue. And you continue. See, first of all, this is what the student do is a professional issue. See my answer above, see my answer above, and see this answer. Did I mention the class of the issue? right? This is a professional issue, right? Materiality level was not revised. What's the problem? Tell the examiner the problem. But when there is a quality control problem, which will come obviously later in the answer, then you have to connect the quality control problem with direction, supervision, and review. So see the way the student write, the student will give the thresholds of materiality. The student connects everything with audit opinion. The student will connect everything with detection risk. 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, 8 times, you write in the answer, thus the quality is compromised, thus the detection risk increased, thus the audit opinion is wrong. Because these are three most favorite things of a student. Uh, you can do the entire 100 marks paper with three things. Thus the detection risk increase, thus the quality is compromised, and the audit opinion is wrong. These are three most favorite things of a student. If someone asks you to do the paper, you can do the entire paper with the three sentences. Is that something wrong I'm telling you? You can judge yourself, right? Every time you write audit opinion is wrong, audit opinion is wrong, quality is compromised, detection risk has increased. I hope for a lot of students, this must be an eye opener, right? So are you clear? Should I cut this off, strike this off, put this in red? This is something dangerous not to do in the exam paper, not to do this danger in exam paper, right? Okay, I'll be continuing with this para 2 of this exam paper, which is this in front of your screen. Then there is a para 3, then there is a para 4, there is a para 5. So I'll be doing that post break. We'll be going through the same question at least after the break for 30 to 40 minutes. Then we'll change the question and we'll start doing another question on the same topic, ethical and professional issue, right? So I am taking a break now, and this break will be from uh, the break will be till 7:32 approximately. I am on break, and post break, do join live again so that you can get the continuation of this paper, June 16. And within the break, please read the case study. Try to read the case study between the break. So after the break, we can just start writing in the answer and can have more better understanding of how to write issues in exam paper. Just before going to the break, how has been this first part of the session? If you can just quickly drop your feedbacks, particularly those students who are repeating the AAA exams, in terms of uh, have you got some better understanding from the session today in the first 1 hour and 15 minutes? Okay, we're off to the break, right? And I'll be resuming at 7:32. Okay, welcome back after the break. We were looking at the June 16 question number 2 for ethical, professional, and quality control issues. We identified the first one, that the materiality level was not revised when it should had been revised, when it should had been reviewed during the course of the audit. Okay, let's go down looking into the second paragraph. And please keep at the back of the mind when you're reading a question like such, you need to stop where you identified an issue, irrespective of the class of the issue, and then tell examiner why it is an issue. Okay, let's do the second exercise. I'm reading this paragraph in front of your screen. From your review of the audit planning, you know that a new packing machine with a cost of $1.6 million was acquired by Stanley Company in March 2015 and is recognized in the statement of financial position at a carrying amount of $1.4 million at the 31st of December 2015. This is a new packing machine, right? And a new asset is taken in context of materiality on the basis of its cost, right? So when we acquired this asset during the year, it was $1.6 million. So obviously it must had been material, because the level of materiality which has not been changed was 1.5. So this is quite a material packing line, right? $1.6 million. The packing machine is located at the premises of the Aberdeen Company, a distribution company which is used to pack and distribute a significant proportion of the Stanley Company product. Okay. The machine has not been physically verified by a member of the audit team. Is this an issue? The machine has not been physically verified by a member of the team, right? So should we go back and write the answer? Number two, physical verification. Physical verification as a heading, and under the heading telling the examiner why it is an issue. The most important assertion, the most important assertion for a tangible asset is to is its existence, which is only verified by having a physical by having a physical inspection of the asset. The most important assertion for a tangible asset is its existence, which is only verified by having a physical inspection of the asset. However, as no physical inspection has been carried out by the audit team, there is no evidence that the packing machine, there is no evidence that whether the packing machine exists or not. Do you all agree with that? However, as no physical inspection has been carried out by the auditor, there is no evidence that whether the packing machine exists or not, and can even be fictitious, because he didn't went down verifying it, right? So it could be a fictitious asset. We should have gone down and seen it, but we didn't. So that means we have a risk here that it could be fictitious, right? Thus the quality is compromised. Thus the quality is compromised. The detection risk is increased. The audit opinion will be wrong. No. Are we writing those typical statements? Thus the detection risk is increased. Thus the quality is compromised, and thus the audit opinion is wrong. No. Have we made the point that there is no evidence? So what's the issue? No evidence on what? On the existence, and the asset could be fictitious. So we made a point for 1 mark, 2 to 3 sentences, right? And you make up your point. Okay, let's go to the next point then. Back to the case study. I'm reading from the next line where I did the blue underlining. I'm reading after the blue. The audit working paper conclude that we have obtained the purchase invoice and the order in relation to the machine, and therefore can conclude that the asset is appropriately valued and it exists. See this word, I was just telling you that, therefore can conclude. Now just think, is that the right conclusion or wrong? And therefore can conclude that the machine is appropriately valued. The machine is appropriately valued, and that it exists. On the basis of what? On the basis of the purchase invoice and the order. Can we verify the existence of the machine on the basis of the purchase invoice and order? Okay, and can on the basis of the purchase invoice we can think about the valuation of the machine? The valuation is what? The cost less depreciation, right? So from the purchase invoice, can I verify the cost of the machine only? From the purchase invoice, can I verify the cost of the machine only? Yes, but can I verify the valuation? Can I verify the valuation? No. So is that a wrong conclusion? So should I go back to my Word file and write the third issue? Purchase invoice and order as a heading. Purchase invoice slash order. And then I write under that purchase invoice can only verify the cost of the machine, not its valuation, as the valuation includes the depreciation of the machine as well. Further, the order can order cannot verify the existence of the machine. Order cannot verify the existence of the machine. Thus, the conclusion the conclusion in the working paper is wrong. That the conclusion in the working paper is wrong. It seems that there had been no supervision of the audit work. It seems that there has been no supervision of the audit work during the course of audit, resulting in this wrong conclusion. Supervision is an important element of quality control system. Supervision is an important element of the quality control system, and thus the quality must had been compromised. Do you all believe that if we are giving a wrong conclusion, there must had been no supervision during the course of the audit? If there would had been a supervision, we would not have given this wrong conclusion. But do you all believe this wrong conclusion is due to there had been no supervision of the audit? Is that right? Is that wrong? Is that the right assumption? Because if we are concluding something wrong, if we have not verified the machine and we have concluded that the machine exists on the basis of the order, that means the audit was done without a supervision. Otherwise, we would not had made these blunders. So do you all agree that there had been no supervision because we're giving a wrong conclusion? We have not physically verified the machine. So see how I connected the supervision with the element of a quality control system. Supervision is an important element of the quality control system. Now, are you getting the track that how we connect a quality control issue with how we connect the quality control issue with the element? How many marks are we getting for this paragraph? Not one, two. See, The conclusion in the working paper is wrong. Till there, we got 1. After that, we connected the issue with a quality control issue. Change the paragraph. We connected the issue with a quality control issue. So automatically this paragraph becomes another 1. So the first para is just looking at like a professional issue. I don't want to refer these words because students then start to make a class of the issue. The first paragraph is thinking about the issue, and the second paragraph is connecting that issue with the lack of supervision, and the lack of supervision is connecting with quality. So quality is giving me 1 mark, and the above issue is giving me 1 mark. So is everyone clear on that drafting? The next paragraph. Okay, in addition, the managing director of Aberdeen Company has confirmed in writing that the machine is located at their premises and is in working order. So the management of Aberdeen has confirmed that the machine is in working condition and is at their premises. We have not verified the machine, right? Remember, no further work is needed in respect of this item. No further work is needed in respect of this item. Have we done sufficient work on the packing machine? Tell me yes or no. Do you all believe we have done sufficient work on packing machine? Have we verified the depreciation? Have we verified the depreciation? No. Have we verified the physical existence? No. And are we just relying on the representation of the Aberdeen company? Are we just relying on the representation of the Aberdeen company that it is existing? What if the representation is fake? The representation is misleading. So can you understand the problem? No further work is needed in respect of this item. Okay, let's go down and write the last point. No further work needed. No further work needed. The the audit team has performed inappropriate work on the packing machine as the machine was not physically verified, nor the depreciation expense nor the depreciation was calculated. Thus, no further work is needed. Thus, no further work is needed is a wrong conclusion, is a wrong conclusion, as the auditor cannot, as the representation from the management cannot be a substitute, cannot be a substitute of the evidence obtained directly by the auditor, directly by the auditor, and we took our first 1 mark. Do you all agree that this conclusion, that no further work is needed, is a wrong conclusion, and the representation cannot substitute the work which I should have done? So my work is more important, right? Rather than the representation. Representation is the last resort, right? So no further work needed is a wrong conclusion. Now, again and again, we'll not repeat the same point that supervision is wrong and the supervision is an element of. If you said one thing once, that's fine. Don't repeat. See, so far in my answer, have I repeated the points? Have I tried to repeat my sentences? Have I tried to repeat qualities compromise, or have I tried to repeat detection risk, detection risk, detection risk? Or have I tried repeating supervision is an important element, supervision is an important element? Because when you learn supervision is an important element, you will try to write it in every paragraph. In every paragraph, you will say supervision is an important element, supervision is an important element. Is that the way to write answers in a triple exam? You cannot repeat the points again and again. Try to refrain from repeating points, please. A lot of time student repeat the same point again and again. Right, now the last thing, and you continue the answer. I'm taking you to the next paragraph. Please try to do the inventory paragraph yourself. I want to discuss some quality control issues. This inventory paragraph is more like the packing machine paragraph, where we have not discussed the right, we've not did the right procedures, and we gathered insufficient evidence. So I'm leaving the inventory on your part. I'm going towards the next paragraph to identify some more very important issues. The audit senior spoke to you yesterday, voicing some concerns about the performance of the audit. A summary of his comment is shown below. Now, the senior is speaking to whom? The audit senior spoke to you yesterday. Who are you in this case? The manager. And he voiced some concerns. Let's see what are the concerns of the senior. Inverted comma, open. The audit manager and the audit partner came to review the audit working paper on the same day towards the completion of the audit work. Do you all believe, as per the ISA 220 quality control standard, the partner review and the manager review of the working paper are two different tasks? Do you all believe manager review is a different task and a partner review is a different task? Can it be done on the same day together? So are we breaching the quality control standards? Because the quality control standard says there has to be a review of the working paper, right? But the manager review should be first and the partner review should be after. Can the manager and partner review the same day? And they came towards the completion of the field work, right? The timing is fine. The timing is fine, but the issue is they came on the same day, right? Which is technically wrong. There should have been a bifurcation. There should have been a segregation between the two. Then look at the next point. The audit partner asked me. Who is me here? The audit partner asked me. Who is me? The senior, right? Because the senior is giving the feedback. The audit partner asked me if there had been any issues on the sections of the audit which I had worked on. When I said there had been no problems, he signed off the working papers after a quick look through them. Is that the right way the partner is demonstrating? The partner asked the senior, had there been any problem in your work? The senior said no, and the partner signed off the working papers after a quick look. So, do you agree this quick look must have compromised the quality of the review process? Quick look through them. So, the quick look must have compromised the quality process, right? See how you write this into a two paragraphs here. The first, manager slash the partner came on the same day review, and you write under manager and partner performing a review of the working papers, performing review of the working papers by the manager and the partner, performing review of the working paper by the manager and the partner on the same day must had resulted in a haphazard approach, a haphazard approach of reviewing the working papers, of reviewing the working papers and must had resulted in overlooking the important areas, overlooking the important areas of working papers as the process was conducted together. Review is an important element. Review of working papers is an important element, is an important element of the firm quality control system, and thus the improper review must had compromised the quality of the review process. See, again, we brought the quality here, and then a quick look. The partner had a quick look. The quick look by the partner, the quick look by the partner on the working papers, on the working papers of the senior could have resulted, we're not sure, could have resulted in overlooking important issues pertaining to audit, pertaining to audit. The partner is responsible for conducting the review of working papers pertaining to risky areas of the audit, and this itself is an important element of the quality control system, as this give the partner the assurance to sign off the audit report, assurance to sign off the audit report. Thus, the quick look must had compromised the quality and even increased the overall audit risk of giving a wrong opinion. See, the moment something relates with the partner, because the partner is the one who needs to sign the report. See how I made the point. The point was relating to a partner, right? So the moment I think about the partner, I relate that with the audit report, and I relate that with a risk of giving a wrong opinion, risk of giving a wrong opinion. And I did connect it that the partner is responsible to review the working papers, which is an element of a quality control. So are you getting some sense of writing answers? When you see something relates with review or something relates with supervision or something relates with direction, you need to connect that with the element of the quality control system, and then speak that the quality must be compromised, right? Review must be done segregatedly, right? First, the manager review, followed by that is the partner review, and should not be on the same day, right? Should not be on the same day. These are two different process. Right? So in that paragraph, there were two issues, right? Coming together on the same day and then having a quick look, through them. And you need to bifurcate the issues in exam paper, right? You cannot just take one paragraph as one issue. Within one paragraph, there can be several issues, like a packing machine paragraph, right? There were so many issues in a packing machine paragraph. Then in this paragraph, there were so many issues, right? Is everyone clear on that? Okay, then the last paragraph, just to show you a glimpse of something. When you read the last paragraph, have you seen ethics somewhere in the answer so far? There is no paragraph on ethics yet. And you come to the last paragraph. When reading the company's board minutes, I found several references to the audit engagement partner, Joey. It appears that Joey recommended the use of his brother. It appears that Joey recommended the use of his brother, Mick. Have you got the ethical issue? Right? And see the last line. I mentioned this to Joy that your brother was working as in this company as a consultant, and he told me not to record it in the working papers or to discuss it with anyone else. Is that another ethical issue, that the partner is trying to intimidate the senior and asking the senior not to report it to anyone else or to write it in the working papers? His brother is working there, right? It causes a familiarity threat. So can you find ethics coming into the last paragraph? Because there was no paragraph in the whole case study which focused on ethics. It started with the packing machine, a materiality level, then talking about inventory, and then the manager and the partner came on the same day for review, right? Yes, more than two ethical issues. You can even think about the self-interest because the partner helped his brother getting the job. So that itself is a self-interest, right? There is a self-interest, even self-interest and a familiarity threat, and then there is an intimidation threat. So are you understanding the way to get into these questions, ethical, professional, and quality control issues? And when you're writing an ethical issue, what are we writing? Why it is an ethical issue and the significance. Do you believe this ethical issue coming in the last paragraph is significant because it relates to the engagement partner? And do you believe this engagement partner has to sign the audit report, so has to be independent? So can you speak of the significance into the last paragraph? So is everyone getting a sense of the way to write the answer? Did I wrote my answer classifying the issues like professional issues and ethical issues and quality control issues, or were I more concerned with finding the issue and then writing about the issue as to why this is an issue? Can you see each of my paragraph in front of your screen which speaks of the issue and then why? And where there is an element of a quality control, where there is an element of a quality control, it was connected with quality control. And this is the best format you can use in the exam paper: heading followed by 2 to 3 sentences. Heading followed by 2 to 3 sentences, right? Heading is the identification, because examiner says student copy paste the case study. You cannot copy paste the sentences from the case study. If you read a paragraph which was about materiality, rather than copy pasting the paragraph, can you sum up the paragraph into a one heading materiality level? So when the assessor is checking your paper, can the assessor exactly know from the heading here that which paragraph are you talking about? Materiality level. Well, the assessor knows which paragraph of the case study you are attacking on. Physical verification. Will the assessor be in ease to know which paragraph has been uh, discussed here? So it's very, very good to give headings followed by a paragraph, because a lot of times student copy paste the lines from the case and then waste time in writing them down, and then after that they try to explain it. So see how much time you waste in exam paper by just copying the lines from the case and writing them in your answer booklet. And once you complete copying the lines from the question paper, you then start to write the answer. Does it, don't it waste time in the exam paper? Doesn't it waste time in the exam paper to do that? Right, so the rest of this June 16 question number 2, you will be solving on your own on the guidance path which has been given to you over the last 1 hour. Okay, now is everyone clear how we connect the quality control issues with the element of a quality control? Are you getting the track? Okay, let's do another question. The other question which is shared in your handouts for the session today is the December 15 question, which has been given you as a session question. And in the December 15 question, you will see the requirements in the question number 4. Okay, this is a question number 4 in front of you from the December 15 exams. And when you go down this question, you will see the requirements. It says, see the requirements, evaluate each of the issues described above, commenting on ethical and professional issues raised, and recommend any actions necessary. So is this question asking for issues as well as actions? Right? And Is this question asking for quality control? Comment on the quality control. So will we try connecting this question with direction, supervision, review? At the back of our mind, will we keep in mind the quality elements? No, because this question is only asking for ethical and professional issues. And how many, and we need to write in the actions. Now, how many issues we have? 3. Can you see the marks of the issues given here? 7, issue number 2, 7, and issue number 3, 6. Now, can we do a planning first quickly before we start attacking this 7, 7, 6, right? In total, we have 20. So what we need to do, see if we can do the planning first, just as we did yesterday in the exam hall. Suppose you're starting to do this question in the exam hall. Just before starting on with this question, try to do the planning. December 15, question number 4, and you paste the requirements. Now, when you look at the requirement of this December 15 question, you know there has to be 3 issues here. So you insert a table, 3 issues, 3 things to be done. So you make a table in the exam, rough sketch, and you say, okay, I have an issue 1, I have an issue 1, I have an issue 2, and I have an issue 3. How much time should be spent on reading and planning for in every question? One fourth of your time in every question should be spent on reading and planning. So issue 1, issue 2, issue 3. How many marks we have for issues 1? 7. Issue 2, 7. Issue 3, 6. How many things we have to do for them? Ethical issues, professional issues, and actions. And each one of them has 1 mark, right? So we can write something more and something less, taking up to the marks to 7. But can we write something 0? No. But can we write something more and something less? We write more ethical issues and less professional issues, or we write actions more and less ethical issues. So we need to reach 7, right? Can there be different ways of reaching 7? Can there be different ways of reaching 7? Yes. So I can reach 7 with, for example, I have no idea of the case study, right? I can reach 7, 2, 2, 3, right? That's one way. I can reach 7 by 3, 3, 1. So it's up to you, right? How you reach it, right? And it depends upon the case study, right? Quite possible that in the case the ethical issues are less and the professional issues are more, or quite possible the professional issues are more and the ethical issues are less. So you need to see the case as well, right? To judge how would you be going down with each of the issues, right? Okay, let's start now with the answer plan. So do planning really benefits? The answer, if we do the planning, so we have a clear idea exactly what is to be done, because a lot of time we don't do planning, so we don't have an idea exactly what is to be done and how is to be done, right? Okay, let's go down and look at the question. Okay, I'm first looking at the 6 marks requirement here, the C requirement. And if you look at the C requirement, it says your firm audits the publisher Homer Winslow. During its recent audit, the company's finance director commented on the growing competition in the digital publishing sector. one rapidly expanding competitor, Pissarro, was specifically referred to. So there is one of your client, Homer, and the finance director of your client, Homer, is very much concerned about the competition, and he's referring to one of the competitor, which is Pissarro. You are aware that your firm recently acquired another accountancy firm, Mar Associates, and that Pissarro is one of their client. So, are we concluding that after the acquisition of Mar Associates, Pissarro and Homer is with the same audit firm? Do you all agree with that? Pissarro and Homer is with the same audit firm after the acquisition? And are they both competitors? Are they both competitors? So, do they have a conflict of interest? Do the competitors have a conflict of interest? And is there a confidentiality issue that the information of Homer can go to Pissarro and the information of Pissarro can go to Homer, right? So do you understand that when there is a competitors, when two competitors are with the same firm, it gives rise to conflict of interest, right? And what is the risk with conflict of interest? That the information of one competitor can go to the other competitor, right? Is it permissible to do audit of competitors by the same firm? Is it allowed? Yes, it is allowed, right? ACCA code of conduct says it's permissible, but you should have different teams, and you should have a confidentiality agreement between the team of Homer, and you should have a confidentiality agreement between the team of Pissarro, that they will not share information. And you also need to inform the clients. You also need to inform Homer that we are doing audit of Pissarro, and you need to inform management of Pissarro that you're doing audit of Homer, and you should get permissions from both the companies. If one of the company refuses, then you have to choose between Homer and Pissarro. But if both the management agree, Homer and Pissarro, then you can continue with both with different teams, and you can continue both by having a confidentiality agreement. So how many marks we need to gain from here? 6. Let's go down and see how we are gaining the 6 marks. Number 1, Homer and Pissarro being with the same audit firm give rise to a conflict of interest, as both the companies, as both the clients are competitors. Both the clients are competitors of one another. Homer and Pissarro being with the same audit firm give rise to a conflict of interest, as both the clients are competitors of one another. And you give heading on the top, conflict of interest. As both firm give rise to a conflict of interest, as both the clients are competitors to one another. Conflict of interest, right? Next, confidentiality issue. There is a risk, there is a risk that the information of one competitor can pass to the other competitor, and confidentiality and the breach of confidentiality and the breach of confidentiality can become a big can become an issue. Next, actions. However, it is permissible for the audit firm to perform audit of both the competitors. by taking the following actions. Number one, by informing management, by seeking permission from both the management, by seeking permission from the management of Homer and Pissarro before continuing to audit both, by allocating separate teams, for both, and by signing a confidentiality agreement, by signing a confidentiality agreement, by signing a confidentiality agreement between teams, so confidentiality is not breached. So confidentiality is not breached. See, how many marks have we got so far? In total, 1 mark for conflict of interest, 1 mark for confidentiality, and 3 marks we got for actions. So how many more marks we need to take? One more. 6 marks, right? 3, 4, 5, 6. So we need to reach to 6 means one more mark, right? Now see, so far since I started my lecture today, I was focused on issues. Issues means problems. But there, there are situations in P7 or Advanced Audit and Assurance that sometime there is a need to appreciate the positive sides only when you think there are marks left. Now, see, in this situation, I've covered the negative side, which is the conflict and the confidentiality. Now, you read the whole case in front of you. There is no other problem in the case study. Your firm recently acquired another accountancy firm. It is hoped that the audit of Pissarro will be transferred to your department to take advantage of your specialism in the media and publishing. So, do the audit firm has a separate department to take advantage of your specialism? So, do they have an department for digital publishing sector? And is that a plus point that the audit firm has specialism in the media and publishing and they can do a wonderful audit of Pissarro because they have knowledge of the industry? So is there any negative issue in the C part apart from conflict of interest and confidentiality? Do you all agree with that? But how many marks are we making with the negative issues? 5. So are we still left with 1? But is there something positive here that they have specialism in media and publishing, and that can really be very good for the firm to offer the audit with quality and boost the service standards? So can we appreciate their competence? Normally, competence is a negative factor in exam paper, but over here, the competence is becoming a favorable factor. So do we write positive points in exam paper when we are attempting a question on issues? What is the journal rule of thumb? What is the journal rule of thumb? Do we write positive issues? The journal rule of thumb says no. But if there is a need, can we write the positive issues? So is it encouraged to write positive issues? Is it encourageable to write positive issues? No. But if there is a need, we should write them. Okay, so should we write this next and last point here? Over here. Specialism. The specialism is an advantage. The specialism is an advantage for the audit firm as they can easily perf- specialism is an added advantage for the audit firm as they have industry knowledge of media and publishing of media and publishing as they have industry knowledge of media and publishing, and this can really help them with overall efficiency with which they can perform audit of Passaro. See, this is the first time I wrote a positive factor. I wrote a positive factor because only when it is needed to complete the marks. Only when it is needed to complete the marks. So will we write it every possible time? Or will we only write when there is a need for that? Right? So this question was done with a purpose. This question was not done to understand confidentiality and conflict of interest. You must have done that many times. This question was not done to write the actions of conflict of interest, but this question was done to understand this paragraph in yellow, that when there is a need to write positive things, do write, but keep them keep them as the last resort. You will not write positive things if the marks are completed with negative. Is everyone clear on that? If your marks are completed with negative, you will never write positive. You will never write positive. But if you are left with like a mark and two and the negative factors have completed, then you can write upon some positive things from the case study and appreciate those to take your marks. Okay, the last one, the last situation for this session today. We're going down with the next paragraph here. Okay, I just want to justify my point that uh, you have to write negative issues, right? You cannot write positive issues. You cannot write positive issues unless and until there is a need. So positive issues can only be written when there is a need. Negative issues has to be your priority. Negative issues has to be your priority, right? Take another example. Take another example. See this question. Just want to affirm my point here. This is your home assignment, right? So I just want to do one part from your home assignment question, which is basically the June 15 question. And this June 15 question number 5. See this in front of your screen. You need to do this as your home assignment, but I want to tell you that you need to write positive issues when there is a need, else you will only be writing the negative issues, right? See this in front of your screen. Some of the audit work was performed by the overseas office of Bunk Company. Bunk Company is the audit firm, right? Some of the audit work was performed by the overseas office of Bunk Company in an offshoring arrangement. This practice is encouraged by Bunk, whose managing partners see it as a way of improving audit efficiency. And we know that offshoring arrangement is an allowed arrangement. The audit firms can offer the offshoring arrangement. So far, the question is on the positive side. Some of the audit work was performed by the overseas office of the Bunk Company in an offshoring arrangement, which is allowed. This practice is encouraged by Bunk, whose partners see it as a way of improving audit efficiency. A lot of time, The audit firms delegate work to their other offices, and delegating work to other offices is known as offshoring, giving it to another country or giving to an office in another country as part of offshoring arrangement, which is permissible. So see, the question is positive so far. The overseas office performs work at low cost, and it was largely low risk, and non-judgmental work is included in this arrangement. For example, the numerical checks on documentation and the para clause here. The overseas office works at low cost, means they have cheap labor, and the work which you have given to them is low risk and non-judgmental, like a numerical check on the document. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Now, is that something of a clerical task you're giving to an or to your overseas office which works at a low cost? Is there an issue? In the first 4 lines, there is not a negative issue. In the first 4 lines, there is not a negative issue. Offshoring, it's allowed. The overseas office works at a low cost. Have we given them risky work? The overseas office works at a cheap labor. Have we given them risky work? If we would have given them risky work, would that had been an issue? But is it an issue? Have we given them risky work now? No. So is it fine? And 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Numerical checks on document. Is that something easier which an overseas office can do, even though they are working on a lower cost? So do we need to have the knowledge of business to do 2 plus 2 is equal to 4? So whose client is it? Whose client is it? Is it a bunk company client? And the bunk company is giving this client to an overseas office. For what? For doing risky areas or for doing 2 plus 2 is equal to 4? So do 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 requires the knowledge of business? Do we need to have a knowledge of business for 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, irrespective the client belongs to bunk company? So can you identify any negative issues in the first 4 lines? And how many marks you need to take? 5. When you come to the last line, it says, in addition, the overseas office, the overseas office read the minutes of the board meetings to identify issues relevant to the audit. Is that a mistake? Is that the first mistake we got in this question? The overseas office read the minute. So reading the minutes, is that a judgmental task? And to identify issues relevant to audit. How would the overseas office knows the issues? Is this the client of the overseas office? Is this the client of the overseas office? No, it is the client of bunk. So who has the knowledge of business? Who has the knowledge of business? Bunk. So if I don't have the knowledge, can I identify issues relevant to the audit? So do you believe identify issues relevant to the audit is a judgmental task? Do you all believe identifying issues relevant to the audit is a judgmental task? So is that the only problem? How many marks can I gain from this? Just one? Negative problems. How many marks can I gain from the negative problems? One. And yes, that's true. For every negative problem, is there an action? Do we write actions for positive things? Do we write actions for positive things? No. Do we write actions for negative things? So out of the 5 marks, one issue and one action, how many marks can I take out of 5? 2. So how many marks am I left with? 3. So where will I write the 3 marks answer? Where will I write the 3 marks answer? Now, is positive issue becoming the need of the answer? Is positive issue becoming the need of the answer? So are you understanding this, everyone? That are will we prioritize the positive issues in the exam paper? Will we prioritize the positive issues in exam paper? No. However, we will write positive issues when there is a need. When there is a need. Is everyone clear on that? I'm writing this statement in black and white here, so there is no confusion, and I'm giving you the answer for the question we just discussed, offshoring. So you have a proper documentation of this with you, though this was your home assignment. Please, I'm writing a note here. In an exam, you need to focus on negative issues as your priority to complete the answer, to complete your answer. Right. However, if the marks are not completed, example, June 15, question number 4, part B, if the marks are not completed, then you need to attain the remaining marks by writing the positive things from the case. So is everyone getting this note in the way I want to communicate it? So what is my priority in the exam paper? Negative or positive? Negative, right? But can positive becomes the need at some time? Can positive becomes the need sometime? Okay. So can I just give you a sketch of the June 15 question we were discussing? June 15 question number 4B. How are we taking the 6 marks? We need to gain 6 marks in that question, right? Gain 6 marks. I'm giving you a bulleted answer, right? You need to do this answer yourself. The only thing I want to guide you from this question was that it is at times writing the positive issue becomes the need. Okay, let's go down and find what's the first issue. You will tell offshoring is a permissible arrangement. Offshoring is a permissible arrangement, 1 mark. Offshoring improves offshoring improves firm efficiency as low risk work is transferred to overseas offices So do you all agree this improves the efficiency? This improves the efficiency of the firm as low risk work is transferred to overseas office. So can the firm focus more on the core areas? This the allows the offshoring allows bank to focus more on core areas. So is it good for bank to focus more on the core areas rather than bank focusing on 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, right? So 3 marks. Fourth, however, the minutes which were read by the overseas office is a judgmental task, is a judgmental task, is a judgmental task, and the overseas office does not have knowledge of business, does not have knowledge of business to identify issues relevant to audit. Fourth mark, and because the number fourth is the problem, so I need to write an action, right? In Bunk and Company, Bunk should ensure that when the work is transferred, when the work is transferred to overseas office, when the work is transferred to overseas office, judgmental task is not given. Judgmental task is not allocated to overseas office because they work at low cost and have no knowledge of business and have no knowledge of business. Fifth mark. See how I took my fifth mark. This is sentences. You need to make them paragraphs. But do you understand? One, two, three. We had positive things here. So has this question helped you? Has this question opened up your mindset about uh, any such situation coming in your exam paper, which can be uh, where you have positive issues and you need to write them because your marks cannot be completed, your marks cannot be accumulated. So has this question again opened your eyes for a situation like this? Is everyone clear on negative and positive issues? So our focus has to be on negative, right? Our focus has to be on negative, and our focus has to be on writing negative things in exam paper. But when there is a need and we need to complete marks, we need then to shift towards positive issues. June 15 question number 4 is a good example. And even the one we were doing, Homer and Pissarro, in Homer and Pissarro, we need to write one positive issue to make up the marks. So we wrote one positive issue that they have specialism, and specialism becomes the need to score the final mark. Is everyone clear on this? Okay, one last exercise now. The final exercise. See the question we were doing, the June 15 question. See, what is the requirement of this question? Comment on the quality control, ethical and professional issues and recommendations. Comment on the quality control, ethical and professional issues and recommendations. Now see, you're learning something more here. Comment on the quality control, ethical and professional issues and recommendations. Now, was there any ethical issue in bunk company, the situation we were doing? Why it's taking that long? Was there any ethical issue? No. No, was there any ethical issue? Was there any ethical issue in the B situation? No. So, what was the requirement? The requirement was saying quality control, ethical, and professional issue. This requirement was for the whole question, right? A, B, C. So, is it also giving you a message that not necessarily that in every requirement there is an ethical issue? Now, a lot of time the student forcefully identify the ethical issue. Can we forcefully identify an ethical issue from the B situation? So are you getting the message that will ethical issue be in every situation ABC? What if the examiner has only made the B situation about professional issues? So did we find any self-review thread, self-interest thread, advocacy thread, intimidation thread in the B situation? But did we completed the 5 marks answer? So are you getting this message as well? That not necessarily in every situation you have ethical issues. Right now, let's do one final thing. I need just to affirm the quality control area. So I'm just doing one more exercise on quality control area so that when we exit from the session today, you are very good on the quality control side. Okay, let's do this one. Can you see this first paragraph here? And just remember the article of the examiner we did today, that what compromised the quality. Do everyone remembers what compromised the quality? Tight deadlines, fees restriction, use of judgments, competence. Remember the areas the examiner was covering in the article. Now, let's read the first situation. Wire company audit committee refused to increase the audit fees despite the company's operation expanding into new locations. So examiner was saying when there is a fees restriction, refuse to agree an increase in fees. Do we need to discuss quality control in the requirement of the question? Right. So do you think that refuse to agree an increase in fees will compromise the quality because auditor is not being paid for the services? And when the auditor is not being paid for the services in the right manner, will he be doing the work as per the best quality? No. Okay. Look at the next line. In response to this, the materiality level was increased during audit. Now, do you think about implications when materiality level is increased during audit? Will it reduce work or will it increase work? When you increase the materiality level, does it reduce work or does it increase work? It reduce work, right? Higher the materiality, lower the work. So when you increase the level of materiality, logically you are doing less work. And some review procedures were not carried out. Do you know the review procedures? Some review procedures were not carried out. Now, review procedures are very important, like the going concern review. That is one of a review procedure. Analytical review is another review procedure. It is saying some review procedures were not carried out. Why? Because our fees was not increased. So we increased the materiality level. We didn't perform some review procedures. And to reduce the sample size used in test of details, sample were selected based upon judgment. Is it good to select samples based upon judgment? Can you think this is an issue? And why it is an issue? Samples were selected based upon judgments rather than statistical method. Do you believe statistical sample is better than judgmental methods? In addition, the last line, in addition, only part of the population being tested were sampled. That we choose a sample from a part of a population. For example, certain locations were not included in the sample selected for physical verification. Is that a representative sample that we didn't included some locations in our sample? Should we select sample which is representative? Should we select sample from all locations? Is that true? But have we selected sample from all locations? So are we making up the 6 marks? See how many negative issues are there. Is there a need to write any positive things in this 6 marks answer? No, because the question is flooded. The question is flooded with negative information. Let's recap the 6 marks here. I'm taking the 6 marks here. This is the June 2015 question number 4, A part. I'm again making the recap. Number 1, fees was restricted, the first issue. Second issue, materiality level was increased. Materiality was increased. The third issue, review procedures were not carried out. Review procedures were not carried out. Fourth, samples were based upon judgment, Samples were based upon judgment. And again, the sample size was reduced even, right? Sample size was reduced. And then uh, certain locations were not chosen. Certain locations were not included in sample selection. And do we need to write an actions in this requirement of June 15? Was there a need to write actions? The examiner was saying issues and actions. So see, 5 marks are coming on the issues. This total question was worth 6 marks. So if I write action for every one of them, my marks are going beyond 6. So do you all believe these are issues? Fees was restricted. Restricted fees will impact upon the quality of audit as auditor is not being paid rightly for the service. Auditor is not being right. Auditor is not being paid rightly for the service. Why we use the word quality with fees? Because the examiner covered that, right? The examiner covered that in the article. So can you connect the examiner article here? Fees restriction is a quality control issue. If you write that in exam paper, examiner will be happy, right, that you read his article. Next, materiality was increased. Implication, what's the implication of materiality was increased? The work must have reduced. The work must had reduced, and we must have gathered insufficient evidence. Gathered insufficient evidence. We must have gathered insufficient evidence. Okay, next, review procedures were not carried out. Implication, review procedures are so important, right? Review procedures are so important as it includes critical areas, critical areas like a going concern review. So do you believe if such a procedure was not carried out, review procedures, and something like going concern review was not carried out, review procedures were not carried out as it includes critical areas like going concern review, it must had resulted in gathering less evidence and even increasing the overall detection risk, the auditor failing, overall detection risk, failure of the auditor. Samples were chosen on the basis of judgment. Implication, judgment, judgmental samples are risk, increases the sampling risk. Judgmental samples increases the sampling risk. And bias. Do you believe judgmental samples are biased because it involves the human element? There is a human element in judgmental samples, and certain locations were not included. The implication, the sample is not representative. The sample represent is not representative of the population. So I just connected the fees with quality because there was a need, because examiner covered that in the article. Rest, I was simply focused on the implication, the implication, the implication, the implication, because they were all professional issues. And then you need to write actions. Do we need to discuss with audit committee that the fees is based on certain basis, and that the expansion of the business, is a logical basis for the fees to increase, is a logical basis for the fees to increase. I hope you all agree that the central issue in this question is the first line, because that's where the problem started. Do you all agree with that? The central issue is the very first line because that's where the problem started. So do we need to mitigate that? Do we need to write an action for the central issue here, that the fees should increase because there was an expansion of the client business, right? So if there is an expansion of a client business, the fees should increase, right? I've given you the sketch answer. You need to formulate a proper answer as we were writing for the Stanley company, a heading and a paragraph, and 2 to 3 sentences, heading and a paragraph, and then writing in the actions. But is everyone getting cleared upon how to take marks? How to take marks in situations of ethical, professional, and quality control issues? Right. And now just doing a recap, a final recap of things we've gone down in the last 2 hours and 30 minutes, so that you have a proper enforcement of things, which I have covered scatteredly over the session today. So it becomes at one point in time very clear for all of you. Okay, now let's do a recap finally. And I need your answers, right? So just be on the chat box and quickly type in your answers so I get an immediate response from you. Now, when you're preparing for this topic, ethical, professional, and quality control issues, will you ensure that you read the part 1 article of the examiner, which covers ethical issues and how to write the ethical issues, right? So please make that a habit. Secondly, will you read the examiner article on quality control to identify the areas where quality can be compromised? So these are two recommended articles, right, which you should be going down with. Next, is everyone clear about when you write an ethical issue, the step 1 is to identify from the case the ethical issue. The step 2 is to explain why it is an ethical issue, and then justify the significance. And again, I'm asking you the same question. Is significance to be written every time? Is significance to be written every time? No, only when it is possible, right? And then writing in the action. And I'll be sharing the summary of the ethical issues and the safeguards with all of you on the WhatsApp group, so don't be worried about that. Professional issues. Identify from the case what is wrong in the process of the audit. So do you all understand what professional issue is? Were we just reading the case and identifying what's wrong in the case? Or were we concerned about the examples of the professional issues to be in my mind? Should I rote learn professional issues and go to the exam hall? Or should I just read the case? Should I just read the case and identify what's wrong in the case study, right? And just think why it is wrong, and then explain why it is an issue and explain the implication on the process of the audit, right? Same happens with quality control. There is something extra to be done in quality control, right? That is, you connect the problem with the element of the quality control. And what are three crucial elements of quality control? What are three crucial elements of quality control which comes in most of the cases? Direction, supervision, and review. And did I taught you how to connect with the element of quality control when I was drafting the Stanley Company question? Did you got an idea from there? And is everyone clear on the marking scheme? Is everyone clear on the marking scheme? Okay, then let's do this final thing now. Let's sum up in a very different way this time. Okay, now just keep your focus on the screen. Suppose this is a case study, right? This is a case. And you start to read the case, right? From here to here. We always read case top down. Now, when you're reading the case top down, and you need to identify here something which is wrong, and then you need to tell why, and then you need to tell it's so wrong. Something is wrong. This is what you need to identify. Where will you identify that? From the case study. So will you be clever enough to pick from the case study what is wrong? Can you identify from the case study what is wrong? And then you speak of why and the implication, and how much marks we will gain for that whole process? 1 mark. will gain 1 mark for that, right? So is that clear? So you read a natural story, right? When you're doing a homework, just open a case, take a pen in your hand, read the case. Wherever you find an issue, circle that. Then go down, circle. Then go down, circle. Then for each circle, think what's wrong and what's the implication. Is that something easier? Keep circling the wrong things, keep circling the wrong things, and then at the end of the day, ask yourself why I circled it, why I circled it, and what is the implication of this. The implication of this means we must have gathered less evidence. The implication of this could be that the detection risk has increased. The implication could be that the sampling risk has increased. I was just writing the implications, right, when I was doing the sketch answer of June 15. Right, the implication means the impact, right? Impact and implication is one of the same thing, right? Is everyone clear with that structure? Okay, then the next thing, go down and assume this is another case study in front of you. Now when you're reading this case study again from top to down, you might find a lot of issues here which relates with direction, planning, which relates with supervision, which relates with review of the working paper. When you find an issue in the case study which relates with direction, supervision, and review, you have to connect them with what? You have to connect them the with quality control, because direction, supervision, and review are elements of quality control, right? So when you're reading a question which says comment on the quality, and when you are commenting on the quality, and you're reading this case, comment on the quality, comment on quality, and you're reading this case. So try to identify the issues from the case, like the manager was absent, the manager and the partner came on the same day to review, um, the supervisor is part qualified, the supervisor is part qualified, right? So reading a case and identifying the issues in terms of direction, supervision, and review of the working paper and connecting them with quality. So are you getting this thing very clear in your mindset, everyone? Are you all very clear? So normally drill the case from the start to the end. And when you're drilling the case, keep circling the problems, keep circling the problems. And at the end of the day, ask yourself, what's the problem? Why it's the problem? So the marks will be gained upon why. So every time, if you want to surpass the 50 barrier in the AAA exam, you can only surpass the 50 barrier if you focus on why. That's the only way you can surpass 50. Keep the positive issues at the end of the answer if needed. Don't prioritize the positive issues, right? Because if there is a positive issue, just hold it till the time you complete your answer. If your answer gets completed on the negative issue, then don't write the positive issues. Only write the positive issues when it is needed. And if you're writing them, then write towards the end of the answer. Okay, now just to wind up things, please start putting up your feedback in the meantime. There is another 5 to 6 minutes remaining. I would be looking forward to your feedback of the day 3, exactly how it has been when I started the session and when I started the session and now, how have things been? Have you gained more confidence on ethical, professional, and quality control issue? And are you more better now in terms of ethical, professional, and quality control issues now than you were at the start of the session? Are you feeling more confident? Have you gained more confidence in terms of tackling a question on ethical, professional, and quality control issue? So just keep dropping your feedback as quickly as possible as we move into the last 5 to 6 minutes of the session. Secondly, um, I have today circulated on my Facebook page, on my Facebook wall, and my AAA by Kashif Kamran Facebook page, and on numerous WhatsApp group, that there has been a current issue article for September exam, which is on data analytics. I have circulated this message on all the social media contacts I have access to. So the student community knows that the examining team has published a new article, which you can download from the ACCA website, which is about data analytics. And it is a current issue, right? It is such an easy article, which you can read and understand yourself. It's just about the benefits of data analytics and examples of data analytics and in what context the auditor must be using data analytics. So please ensure that you are downloading the article on data analytics and you are reading the article on data analytics, because uh, that is a current issue article, and it's quite probable that in your upcoming exams in September, you might get a question asking for the knowledge covered by the examiner on data analytics. So is everyone getting that message through? Has everyone got this message that there is an article on data analytics? I have already mentioned that on my Facebook and over the WhatsApp group. And will you all be downloading it and reading it? Will you all be downloading it and reading it? Right? It is very, very important for September exams, right? So please do that in the next 24 hours and try to make this as a priority, right? In terms of reading and getting through the article on data analytics. I will be covering uh, a lot of summaries of this article on my Facebook page, which is the AAA by Kashif Kamran. So if you have not yet joined my Facebook page, do join my Facebook page as well, so that you can keep getting updates about the AAA and any new developments in AAA before you enter the exam hall. Okay, now just one final thing, right? Tomorrow when we're meeting for other assignments, which is the day 4 of this Practice to Pass webinar. And I will be covering 2 other assignments tomorrow, which has a high probability, one being forensic and the other being the audit of performance information. Now, um, question number 3 is the one which mostly focus on other assignments, right? And considering the recent trends in the exam, that prospective financial information has come in September 18 and the due diligence has come in March 19, I will be focusing on forensic and audit of performance information tomorrow in my session day 4. And if you want to cover up the due diligence and prospective financial information, you can cover that from my previous webinar, right? So I'm just signing off from my day 3 with a final feedback from your side. I hope you had a good session today in terms of learnings and insights on the topic ethical, professional, and quality control issues. And I will be joining you live tomorrow for the 4th and the second last day of this ongoing AAA Practice to Pass session, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. the Pakistan Standard Time. And I hope you will get more insightful analysis of forensic and audit of performance information tomorrow, right? So take care of yourself and study effectively for your exams coming up in September. And I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye and Allah Hafiz.